today marks 14 consecutive days without load shedding. Electricity Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa has attributed this to Eskom's ramped-up plant maintenance. Political writer and researcher Dr Ebrahim Harvey says despite the improved load-shedding situation over the past 2 weeks, the tentacles of corruption at Eskom over many years have sunk so deep that it might never become completely overcome. Dr Ebrahim Harvey joins us this afternoon via Zoom just to take us through that particular article he wrote. Good afternoon, Doctor. Goodness, your views have most certainly taken the wind out of Eskom's sails. You say corruption over the years and skills exodus mean Eskom might never truly recover. Talk to us about this.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity. No, you need to listen to what Oberholzer said last week. In fact, he was interviewed on what is happening at Eskom and so on. You shouldn't be surprised because the media has actually carried stories, about what's been happening at Eskom very well, So the media should be up to scratch about it's a lot of gyrations up and down, and certainly there's been some relief, over the past 2 weeks. I think it's short-lived. I think with winter being around the corner, you're probably going to see a resumption of load shedding.
But the minister is quite confident. He's quite confident and saying what we're seeing now is the efficacy of the Energy Action Plan. So insofar as the media is concerned, yes, there have been numerous articles, numerous reports about the ups and downs of Eskom around load shedding, around the skills exodus, around the systemic corruption. But at this point now, he's of the view that they took difficult decisions in December to decide to ramp up their maintenance. We had a lot of load shedding then and January, and now they're saying these are the results, that you've got a lot of units that have now come back on stream.
Well, you know what? The proof of the pudding is in the eating. You see what has happened with Eskom over so many years. So many things have been said, promises, and then flatly contradicted with developments thereafter. It's been happening for years. It's not something that people are unaware of. That is why often people say we don't know what to do or what to say or think about Eskom, because the stories about what is happening continuously changes and promises have not been fulfilled. So this is a long story. Ramaphosa himself has spoken to it. He knows how people have been feeling disenchanted with Eskom. So let's hope that this continues, and that it continues as positive as you sound and you seem to be. I am happy that there's been a relief for 2 weeks. I'm just concerned. It seems quite optimistic what the minister is saying, but the proof of the pudding with Eskom is in the eating. And we've got to see how it will turn out, over the next month or two as we head into winter, particularly when the demand for electricity consumption considerably increases. And I think that will be the test. But you must not blame cynicism on the part of the public. I mean, I've got friends and people, there's just general cynicism. They're happy, however, that there's been relief for 2 weeks now, and just hope that it continues. But if you think that the problems in Eskom, they've turned a corner, and that I think you're mistaken.
No, Ebrahim, it's not me. It's not me thinking so. I'm just merely stating what the minister in his briefing stated to the public. But of course, there have been disappointments time and time again. And it is, like you say, the proof is going to be in the testing. But for me, I'd like to know what you attribute this to, because they have said it's the ramped up maintenance, but other experts have stated that, in fact, it's because a significant amount of consumers or customers have left and now went for the alternative of solar energy. So it's not only something that can be attributed to the ramping up of maintenance. Where do you stand on that?
No, but the minister knows that. Let me tell you, about 20% now, because of what the crisis at Eskom and how it has continued and affected industry and the economy particularly. People have for a long time now, over a year to two, moved towards renewables. So about 20% is now of electricity supply in this country comes from the renewable sector. So indeed, I'm happy you've raised it, because you need to be very careful, therefore, and cautious with what the minister is saying. The minister is not dealing with what we've just said now. So his optimism excludes the fact that a significant percentage of the economy, because of what's happened with Eskom, has moved out of the traditional energy sector and towards renewables. So that's why I'm saying it's early days, and I don't think we should be unnecessarily pessimistic, and I don't think I'm being so. I'm just being very cautious in the light of what has happened to Eskom so far. And I'd be very happy to see that there's consistency in what the minister is saying. But you've raised a very important matter. Indeed, it needs to be ironed out. To what extent has the renewable sector and its emergence helped Eskom so that the load shedding is not as severe as it would have been, because people are no longer, a lot of significant percentage rather, have moved to the renewable sector. And as a result, load shedding doesn't impact as severely as it did before.
Doctor, just talk to us about your views around the skills issue.
But the skills issue has been, you need to look at the reports from the Eskom, the Office of the CEO. And as I've indicated in my column, I think as much as they have not wanted to indicate, the extent to which, I think it's been severe, and I think it's been there from about 2006 when this BE and AA began to kick in. 2006 is the turning point when you see these particularly white Afrikaners who the mass exodus of staff was around 2005, 2006. And you'll see the problems in Eskom begins to pick up and you've seen what happened when Mbeki was in office. We had for the first time towards the end of 2007, early load shedding for the first time in the entire history of Eskom in this country. So, and we've had a recurrence of load shedding for since 2007-8, on and off. I want to be more optimistic than I'm sounding at the moment, but you must not blame me for the skepticism and cynicism with which not just I, but many people have greeted, all these positive signs that are coming. They say normally, let's see how long it lasts. And that caution is a result of what has happened, how many promises have been broken by Eskom, over the years.
No one would blame you for that, or anybody in society. Many of us have been disappointed by Eskom. But just in closing, when reading your article, you carefully worded it or belabored the point that you don't want your position around the skills exodus to somehow lead to you being viewed as somebody who's anti-transformation, but you held the views that post-1994, when the ANC took over, perhaps they should have allowed for some of those skilled white men and women to have stayed on a bit longer, 5 to 10 years.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So, it's quite clear in the literature, in fact, that, the moving out of the exodus of skilled white staff was somewhat premature. They should have retained, I believe, these critical skills. And given a 5 to 10 year period, I speak about that in the column, before, as a result of, you must remember also the ANC's cadre deployment policy, affirmative action and BE combined had a significant impact on Eskom, but there's no doubt. It's very clear, the empirical evidence is there. From about 2006-07, that is why you've got load shedding starting at the end of 2007, early 2008. It is following the exodus of the skilled white staff mainly that Eskom picked up so many problems, and there's no doubt, and it's borne out in the literature, that the lack of skills and competency is one of the biggest reasons for the recurring crisis in Eskom and the failure to keep the lights on consistently.
And I suppose it was also the failure to heed the call to start building more power stations.
No, that is rather more obvious. That was already in the late 1990s. Former Eskom executives appealed, implored the ruling party, and it ignored it, And in fact, Mbeki, I don't know if you can recall, Mbeki said belatedly that he thinks they made a mistake, that they should not have ignored these calls, as long as they did. And you can see how then the rush to Kusile and Medupe took place, because a sort of catch up and look the disaster that happened with Kusile and Medupe.
Dr. Ebrahim, thank you very much for your insights this afternoon.